The Crusades call to mind images of battles and bloodshed, and they should. It's estimated that nearly 2 million people died as medieval Christians tried and failed to take the so-called Holy Land from Muslim control. But the period between the 11th and 13th centuries wasn't all death and destruction. It was also a time of increased trade, connection, and exchange between the East and West. It all started in 1095, with Christianity bitterly split between the Catholic Church in the West and the Eastern Orthodox Church. In the East, the Byzantine Empire was fending off invasions by a powerful Muslim force, the Seljuk Empire. The Byzantine Emperor Alexius I wrote to Pope Urban II for help, reasoning that Muslim control made it harder for all Christian pilgrims to travel safely to the Holy Land. And if you help us, he offered, maybe our churches could get back together. It was an offer the Pope couldn't refuse. He gave a fiery sermon urging European Christians to take up arms and seize lands that had been conquered by Muslims. The Pope wanted to take the Holy Lands from Muslims, but he was also driven by another goal: to get Christian kingdoms to stop fighting each other. European Christians answered the Pope's call in droves, nobles and peasants alike. The First Crusade conquered a large slice of the Levant, establishing the Kingdom of Jerusalem and several smaller states. For much of the next 2 centuries, Christian rulers led several more crusades into the Holy Lands, fighting wars against different Muslim empires before being finally driven out in 1291. There are even some reports of a children's crusade, unsanctioned by the Pope and led by a 12-year-old boy, Stephen of Cloyes. Some crusades, like the first, were fairly successful, but most, like the Children's Crusade, were utter disasters. Yet, that doesn't mean the Crusades didn't achieve anything. They reshaped trade in the Mediterranean world. Trade between Christians and Muslims wasn't new, but the Crusades revved up demand. Europeans returned from their travels with a taste for Eastern spices, fruits, and textiles. Italian merchants capitalized on this opportunity by strengthening ties with Eastern traders and opening new trade routes by sea. By the 13th century, port cities like Venice and Genoa transformed into the wealthiest and most powerful states in Europe. At the same time, Eastern influences flowed into Western art and architecture. Take the Basilica of San Francesco, built in Italy in the 13th century. Its pointed arches echo Islamic architecture that Crusaders would have encountered in their travels. And its walls and mosaic floors are dappled with 8 pointed stars, a motif commonly found in Islamic textiles and tiles. This cultural exchange went both ways. Take this inlaid brass container made in 13th century Syria. It's engraved with both Christian and Muslim motifs, reflecting a blend of Western and Eastern styles. The Crusades didn't just enable the flow of things, but also the exchange of ideas. The Islamic world was the center of learning and science in Afro-Eurasia. Muslim scholars were making incredible advances in mathematics, medicine, and astronomy. Like Ibn al-Nafis, a 13th century physician who first described the pulmonary circulation of blood. Or Hassam ibn al-Hathim, whose insights on optics paved the way for the development of telescopes. Increased contact during the Crusades brought Eastern knowledge to the West. In Spain and Sicily especially, massive translation efforts introduced Arabic numerals, algebra, and the concept of zero to Christian scholars. In fact, when the King of Sicily established the University of Naples in 1224, its library was filled with books by Muslim scholars. Meanwhile, Muslim scholars were building on classical Greek and Roman knowledge. Take the 12th century scholar Ibn Rushd, for example, who translated and critiqued the work of the Greek philosopher Aristotle. Muslim scholars engaged with classical knowledge and merged it with their own, preserving ideas that later influenced the European Renaissance. So, while the Crusades were deadly wars that ultimately weren't successful for European Christians, they did change Europe. They created the conditions that fostered the Renaissance, bringing immense wealth to Italian merchants, and increased access to Islamic scholars' scientific knowledge. And as the Ottoman Empire expanded and took control of major trade routes by land, Europeans began to seek other ways of getting to the East. These events paved the way for the Columbian Exchange, and eventually trade networks slicing across the globe, shaping the world as we know it.